Personal apps have made ordering simple, so why shouldn't employees expect the same from work apps? ServiceNow creator workflows make building low-code apps fast and easy, delivering delightful digital workflows across your enterprise that scale without creating app sprawl. With ServiceNow creator workflows, you can give the tools of innovation directly to creators, builders, and developers of any skill level, from low-code to pro-code, or anyone else. Whatever your business is facing, let's workflow it. Learn more at servicenow.com. How does one company get 300,000 plus professionals in 150 countries to work together? With ServiceNow, of course. Deloitte seamlessly connects professionals across the globe on the Now platform. ServiceNow digital solutions provide Deloitte professionals consistency and agility worldwide, which makes it that much easier for Deloitte to thrive and to adapt to whatever change the marketplace throws their way next. Learn more at servicenow.com.
Murder and Such contains true stories about murders, the macabre, true crime, serial killers, and other dark subject matter. This includes adult themes, explicit language, descriptions of gore, violence, and other information provided by news articles, witness testimony, and public record. Murder and Such is not intended for all audiences, and although warnings will be set in place, listener discretion is still advised.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Murder and Such. I am your host, Hunter. As I do with every episode, I have some housekeeping to get out of the way, so I would like to thank my new patrons over at patreon.com/murderandsuch. So I want to thank, and I'm sorry if I screw your name up, but I want to thank Ethan Adgety for joining on the Patreon page, and I'm not sure if it's Adgate or Adgate, or I'm stupid and bad when it comes to pronouncing names. But another person I'd like to thank is James Harrington for also donating to the show. I want to thank my fantastic friend and listener by the name of Tiffany Bourne for jumping on the executive producer level, which is pretty awesome. Thank you for that, Tiffany. I'd also like to thank Jen F. for jumping on the Patreon and helping fund the back end of the show. And last, but certainly not least, I want to thank Kylie Wright for also jumping onto the Patreon page. So thank you so much to all of you who have joined the Patreon, and if you'd like to join them, you can join it by going to patreon.com/murderandsuch, and you can get the show early, sometimes, ad-free, plus you get an exclusive 30% off discount on all merchandise that I have for sale, and then you help my cat become a little bit fatter, because every time that I get some Patreon money, I always buy him a couple treats, because that is my child. I know, it's not really a kid, but you know what I mean. Anyways, but if you'd like to join that, patreon.com/murderandsuch. But if you can't donate, no harm, no foul. If you can, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That helps the algorithms and all that other stuff that I just don't understand. But apparently, it warms my heart seeing the people that leave all the incredibly nice messages for me. So thank you for leaving me a review. Thank you to all of my new patrons. And I want to thank you for joining me on this episode. Also, if you could do me a favor, on any podcast player that you have, go check out Off the Cutting Room Floor, hosted by Joss Hoskinson. You might recognize a voice that's in his newest series. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere that you get your podcasts. So thanks again, Joss. But let's start getting into this episode. We are living in different times. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but more or less the progression of how we accept certain outcomes, status changes, and grow as a community, country, and a world. One thing that changed since it was first implemented on February 28th of 1994, then finally done away with on September 20th of 2011, is a little thing called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. If you're unfamiliar with it, it was a policy that was implemented by the Clinton era that specifically targeted gay, lesbian, and bisexual persons enlisted with the U.S. military. In its essence, if you were gay, lesbian, or bisexual, or if your sexual interests were anything other than a strict heterosexual male or female interest in the armed forces, you are not supposed to give your sexual preference away. Failure to do so could result in a litany of harassing or violent acts from fellow soldiers, or even a discharge from the armed forces. Quite the barbaric acts, considering the fact that if you've gone through basic training, even AIT or Advanced Individual Training, you could lose your position as a service person with the armed forces over something as simple as your preferred sexual relations. One picture that I actually found on the Wikipedia entry for Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a crude sketch from the Dignity and Respect Training Guide from 2001. Keep in mind, yes, the times have definitely changed, where Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, but this picture has a statement that just rubs you in the worst way. It has a U.S. Army soldier holding up a piece of paper. The quote next to him says, "You may ask, what is credible information? Read this. I hope it helps." The piece of paper reads in its entirety, "What is credible information? 1. A statement by a reliable person that he or she observed or heard a soldier engaging in a homosexual or bisexual act, or state that he or she had married or attempted to marry a member of the same sex. 2. A statement by a reliable person that he or she had observed or discovered a soldier saying or putting in writing a statement acknowledging a homosexual act or the intent to engage in a homosexual act." Yeah, pretty stupid. Since the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, our armed forces have allowed anyone who wants to join, despite their sexual preferences, the opportunity, even though the last administration we had, it barred about 10,000 soldiers from joining the armed forces because they were either transgender or identified as a different gender than their birth. Thankfully, that was struck down by the Biden administration on January 25th of 2021. And I know I do happen to get political at times with the show, but there's almost always some relevance between what I'm talking about. Needless to say, I respect any person who is willing to join the Army, Navy, Marines, National Guards, or any sort of service job. But as I always say, I will judge each person on an individual basis. Sexuality is not a basis in which I will judge a soldier by, because it's most definitely a selfless act to enlist. With that being said, a lot of people who join the military have a different view of it when they decide not to re-enlist. Kind of a shout out to my guys over at Veterans for Voluntarism, Jacob, Jordan, and Dane. I may not always agree 100% with everything that they say, but I know damn well that they're good dudes, and hearing an inside perspective of the military is quite refreshing. Getting back to it, the way that the legislation was finally marked down was a 2004 lawsuit against the United States of America, specifically the Department of Defense on behalf of the Log Cabin Republicans, which is the largest Republican gay coalition. And they went to trial in 2010, and it ended with the United States losing the battle, deeming that the policy was in direct violation of one's First and Fifth Amendment rights. On October 12th of 2010, an injunction was filed prohibiting the Department of Defense from unlawfully discharging any service persons for their sexual preference, and prohibited them from not accepting new recruits based on the same reasons. Now, although the policy is dead, there's been potential acts imposed by a certain side of political aisle but all have been thrown out as violations of the First and Fifth Amendments. Yet, they still try. But there is a point to this. Even though the policy is dead, don't ask, don't tell is repealed, certain enlisted soldiers still look at their male, female, or non-binary counterparts as less than, or even an enemy in certain situations. Hell, there's even female officers who have been killed, but the nature surrounding their death seems eerily suspicious. So it would seem that even though the legislation had been struck down, there still are soldiers or comrades who still judge, mock, ridicule, or in the most extreme cases, kill someone who has a different sexual preference. This story is no different. But as always, my name is Hunter, and you're listening to Murder and Such, and this is episode 79, Adrian Loya. Adrian Loya was born on February 5th of 1984 in El Paso, Texas. He was the oldest of 3 kids to his parents Shirley Guerrero and George Loya. From the get-go, his family was not one that was your typical sort of family. His parents did not live together, and it wouldn't be for a few months after Adrian's birth that his father had learned that he had a son. When finding out about this, his mother and father did what you see happen far too often. Because they had a kid, they needed to get married, and that took place when Adrian was just 2 years old. But less than 2 years later, George and Shirley had actually gotten a divorce. Throughout most of Adrian's childhood, he was a pretty normal kid. He grew up with a brother and a sister, but he also struggled with, let's say, social detachment. He seemed like he didn't have very many friends, or even if he did manage to get a few buddies, he often would become withdrawn or socially distance himself from those around him. As he approached his teen years, he started going from kind of a social outcast to an angry kid. So much that his mother Shirley wanted him to seek counseling. He had eventually become hard to put up with, and when his mother, brother, and sister moved out to San Antonio, Adrian stayed back in El Paso to finish high school and lived with his father. While in high school, he didn't seem to do very well. It's been reported that he was often detached from his schoolwork, but apparently he was a good swimmer. Yes, his mental health had taken a pretty dark turn, often making Adrian feel like he didn't have much of a purpose. He neglected his social skills, wasn't known to attend nor be invited to too many parties. That's when he had decided that he was going to join the United States Coast Guard at the age of 21. The Coast Guard would eventually take him all across the country, hell, even the continent. It would give him a sense of pride, a sense of purpose, and a structure to build off of. Discipline, if you will. He ended up becoming an information technology specialist, well on his way to becoming someone more admirable, more grounded. But this episode is about him, so you know that's not how it's gonna stay. Now for another person, we have Lisa Berlanga. She was born on March 13th of 1983 to her parents Louis and Virginia Berlanga, being born and raised in Midland, Texas. Unlike Adrian, she excelled in school and eventually graduated from Midland High School in 2001. After attending Midland College for a few years, she decided to move to the city of Houston in 2003, eventually attending the University of Houston. But much like Adrian, she also wanted a new sense of purpose. That's when she enlisted with the U.S. Coast Guard in 2008, then went away off to boot camp at Cape May, New Jersey. But there was always something that Lisa had always known. She knew that she wasn't necessarily interested in the opposite sex. Lisa knew that she was different, but still wanted to serve her country with dignity and respect. Now, after I had talked with a close associate of mine who was with the U.S. Navy for many years, she had told me that you really don't disclose this kind of information to anybody. Plus, there's a long history of people in the LGBT community keeping things hush-hush. But she did tell me that if you wanted to get a 2 weeks notice to get out of the service, tell them that you're gay, and you'll be out. But for Lisa, she didn't want to get out anytime soon. But to her family, she kept things under wraps since they were kind of the religious type. So coming out, even back in the early to late 2000s, was still pretty taboo. So with her service, she was about to go travel the continent, carry out her duties, and become a loyal and dedicated service person. At one point, she served in New Orleans, Louisiana, but she found someone while attending the U.S. Coast Guard A School in Petaluma, California, a woman by the name of Anna Trubnikova. After she met Anna, Lisa had been deployed to Kodiak, Alaska in September of 2011. As a petty officer, she had another officer that was superior to her, one of which just so happened to be Adrian Loya. Since both Adrian and Lisa were with the IT field with the U.S. Coast Guard, they shared a lot of the similar interests. They were both kind of, well, nerds. Trust me, as a fellow nerd, I mean that with the utmost respect. They shared a ton of similar interests, such as video games, the same TV shows, movies, and they had become fast friends. Adrian was also a big fan of Star Trek and Star Wars, but also liked things like airsoft guns and video game personalities, one of which was Giant Bomb Studios, which is a YouTube and podcast channel that discusses all of the happenings within the video game world. Since the company started in 2008, I've also been a loose fan of the Giant Bomb Studios guys. Now, as you can imagine, since Adrian was somewhat of a loner, he kind of held on pretty tight to Lisa. You can ask any woman who works at, say, a GameStop, that if you like video games and another dude who also likes video games comes in, people can get, well, fucking weird, to say the least. I have female friends who have worked at GameStop, and some of the people that come in and the things that they say and how they just kind of lurk around aimlessly like nobody's interested in buying Funko Pops. Why are you still here? Yeah, it's kind of creepy. But Adrian also lacked a lot of social skills, even in his late 20s. He was noted as being a very loyal guardsman, very intelligent, but there was always something a little off with him. He almost never wanted to let Lisa out of his sight, and his position of power over her gave him the opportunity to keep very close tabs on her. Adrian was also a fan of writing. He kept sort of a digital journal of most of what he was either going through, or he was also a fan of creating his own fanfic of Star Wars and Star Trek. Someone could see this as a healthy outlet for him. He's got his fandoms, but then he started to create another where it was mainly of all the time he was spending with Lisa. To say that he was starting to get a little obsessive would definitely be justified. But he would write in his little digital journal about the things that he and Lisa would do. Maybe it was something that he could reflect on. Even if he was having a bad day, he could reminisce about going to the bar or playing Guitar Hero with Lisa, yet keeping all of these tabs on her is getting into some sort of an incel, creepy sort of territory. Now, Lisa had finally come clean to her superior and told him that she was actually not interested in man-meat, and told him that she had met another petty officer named Anna who had just become stationed up in Kodiak with her. Of course, this wasn't an easy thing to keep under wraps, considering that don't ask, don't tell was still kind of an issue to people personally. And since Adrian was Lisa's boss and also a very close friend, he had decided to also keep it under lock and key, and her secrets would be safe with him. You would think that since Lisa is a good friend and Anna is her girlfriend, that he would be welcoming to Anna joining the little circle of friendship and embrace her with open arms, because, you know, that's what people do. Not quite with him. Time goes on, they all remain friends, but Anna has some sneaking suspicions of Adrian. He seems a little too friendly to Lisa, but not really friendly to Anna at all. Almost like Anna had become an adversary. Lisa had no idea otherwise, as this whole thing was starting to turn into some sort of twisted love triangle, with Lisa being the common denominator. Yet despite this, later on December 30th of 2011, Lisa and Anna made a trip to the state of New York for a very specific reason. On July 24th of 2011, same-sex marriage had become legal in the New York state, although not everywhere in the United States. Anna and Lisa had made the trip and became married, with Lisa taking Anna's last name of Trubnikova. When they arrived back in Kodiak, Lisa still wanted to remain friends with Adrian. But with Anna, maybe not so much. It wasn't really due to jealousy, as you might think, but Anna was usually really good at reading people. This is Anna Trubnikova in her own words.
I saw him one particular time when he invited Lisa and I and another couple that we were friends with to his house to play games.
Okay, and when you say games, what types of games?
I think it was either Guitar Hero or Rock Band, where you play different instruments.
And this may be my age, but are you talking about video games as opposed to board games? Or?
It was a console game, I believe PS3 at the time, but you have physical things that you hold, or you play drums, but they're connected to the console.
Okay. So when you say PS3, would that be PlayStation 3?
Yes.
Okay. And are you talking about a specific time that happened?
Yes.
And what were your observations of Mr. Loya on that specific occasion?
He seemed friendly and a lot more accommodating to Lisa than the three, which is me and the couple. He had offered her a Rockstar energy drink and was playing off some sort of an inside joke with her.
When the Rockstar drink was offered to Lisa, did that have any significance to you?
Yes.
Tell us what that was.
She would drink occasionally at work if she had to stay late or just to kind of stay more energetic for work. And he was playing off some inside joke on how he got her, that there's plenty of Rockstar energies for her, but he didn't offer it to anybody else. From what I remember, me, Lisa, Luke, and Kelly, which was the other couple, would play the four of us, and he would stay back a lot. So he was in between hosting, ordered pizza, and kind of in the background. So there was a couch and a TV in front, and just not as present and as maybe very entertaining talking to everybody. If anything, he would talk to Lisa the most, but just that, just kind of in the kitchen. There was alcohol, but nothing excessive.
All right.
I'm going to take a small break, and I'll be right back.
Personal apps have made ordering simple, so why shouldn't employees expect the same from work apps? ServiceNow Creator Workflows make building low-code apps fast and easy, delivering delightful digital workflows across your enterprise that scale without creating app sprawl. With ServiceNow Creator Workflows, you can give the tools of innovation directly to creators, builders, and developers of any skill level, from low-code to pro-code, or anyone else. Whatever your business is facing, let's workflow it. Learn more at servicenow.com. Deloitte is the world's largest professional services network, and there's a reason for that: consistency. But how does a giant global company provide consistency? Easy. With ServiceNow, they connect all 300,000 plus of their professionals on a single platform, the Now Platform. So whether someone works in Indonesia, Mexico, or any other of the 148 countries they operate in, ServiceNow helps Deloitte perform their work from a common and connected place. They can leverage the same powerful tools they need to adapt to changing markets and get the same proactive support they need to thrive. And with ServiceNow IT solutions, Deloitte can easily consolidate and scale their technology so professionals can access it wherever they are. So, how does Deloitte keep a consistently high standard for global clients? With ServiceNow, they can keep a consistently high standard for global professionals. Learn more at servicenow.com. Deloitte is the world's largest professional services network, and there's a reason for that: consistency. But how does a giant global company provide consistency? Easy. With ServiceNow, they connect all 300,000 plus of their professionals on a single platform, the Now Platform. So whether someone works in Indonesia, Mexico, or any other of the 148 countries they operate in, ServiceNow helps Deloitte perform their work from a common and connected place. They can leverage the same powerful tools they need to adapt to changing markets and get the same proactive support they need to thrive. And with ServiceNow IT solutions, Deloitte can easily consolidate and scale their technology so professionals can access it wherever they are. So, how does Deloitte keep a consistently high standard for global clients? With ServiceNow, they can keep a consistently high standard for global professionals. Learn more at servicenow.com.
And welcome back. Let's get back into it. Needless to say, Anna wasn't feeling all that great about Adrian. Can't blame her for that one. There was also an instance that came out in testimony that Lisa had agreed to accept Adrian's mail to her house before Anna had shown up. I can't say for sure why she would do that, but she would intercept his mail and bring it to work for him. And one time, Anna had found Adrian showing up unannounced with another coworker at her door and had retrieved a box that was taller than her that couldn't be brought to work. She never did state what was inside of that box. Anna could see that Adrian had a certain special something for Lisa. Something that he wouldn't let go of. Something more ulterior. She sat down with Lisa and had talked about how she was feeling about Adrian. Lisa had even made a comment that her and Adrian were just talking about sharing Lisa, which she brushed off as nothing to really be worried about. Anna wasn't very receptive to the advancement that Adrian had proposed, and many may see this as controlling, but Anna told Lisa that she wasn't too comfortable with Adrian as a whole. Adrian's fixation on Lisa was becoming more and more apparent, and every instance of her seeing him was leaving Anna more and more uneasy. Now in September of 2012, after both Lisa and Anna had been married for nearly 9 months, Anna had left their house on a work venture. With Lisa being alone and still within a driving distance from Adrian in Kodiak, she invites Adrian over and watch TV, like they had done so many times before. Adrian had obliged, and he went over. They shared drinks, shared stories, and this is where things get reported kind of haphazardly in the media. The things that are consistent are that 1. Lisa and Adrian had been drinking. 2. Lisa had become far more intoxicated than Adrian. And 3. After the initial advancement, Lisa went up to her room. Now, in that order, allegedly Lisa had become drunk while watching The Simpsons with Adrian, but it's reported that Lisa had either kissed Adrian or kissed him and then started masturbating in the living room. Those details are disputed by various outlets. The next part is that Lisa went upstairs to her bedroom after Adrian had actually denied her advances. Yet, although he denied her, he went upstairs after a short time to check in on Lisa, and she had either grabbed him by the arm or forcibly kissed Adrian, then pulled him onto the bed. Those specific details are also disputed with various outlets. The last part of this is that Adrian denied her advancements again, and then he left. Now, while unwanted advances always leave someone with a bad fucking feeling inside, with Adrian, he would later refer to the incident as, quote,
a rape of the mind.
Now, I'm not going to try to act all high and mighty or on my high horse when it comes to this, but was he sexually assaulted? Yes. An unwanted sexual advance is not something to take lightly. Would I consider him justified in referring to this in any form as a rape? I'm going to go ahead and say no. With Adrian being in a position of power over Lisa as not only her superior in the Coast Guard, but also towering over her in size and stature, it would be hard-pressed to say that kissing him without his consent is not a full-on rape. Assault? Yes. Rape? No. But this is my opinion, and everyone is entitled to their own. But even forensic psychologist John Daignault later testified that, quote, Loya developed the delusional belief that Lisa raped him, end quote. And I'm going to side with the expert on this one. Now, the next day, after sober minds had prevailed, Lisa had actually apologized to Adrian, fully admitting to what she had done wrong, which, honestly, it's a sign of good faith. But she made him keep her promise to keep their interaction a secret and not tell anyone. Adrian said that he would, and he started letting this grand delusion take hold of him. He started fearing for his job and started thinking that Lisa was going to rat him out. Sure, they were friends, but again, Adrian was her superior for the guard. He reached out to what little friends he had, even his father, and told them what had happened. As you can imagine, dudes are gross, and most of the guys that he told either had laughed at him, stating that, quote, a lesbian tried to rape you, end quote, or were more curious why he didn't strike when the iron was hot and sleep with Lisa. Not really the response that Adrian was looking for. Now, about a month and a half after Lisa and Anna's 1-year anniversary, in February of 2013, Adrian had sent a paper that he allegedly spent weeks typing up and sent it to Lisa, as well as Anna. The 19-page document that he wrote was called, quote, The Lisa Effect. And this is unhinged, to say the least. When he sent this off to Lisa, it hit her like a stack of bricks. It had been almost 6 months since this incident took place, and this man was writing his own lewd manifesto to Lisa about all of the supposed trauma that he was dealing with. Now, Psychology Today, where a bunch of this information comes from, states that Adrian said that, quote,
I have never been so scared in my life,
end quote. And he was torn between a simple crush and a, quote,
a classic case of post-traumatic stress because of what you did to me that night,
end quote. Not only that, but he expressed everything in great detail just to reaffirm how he was a victim beyond repair due to the nature of what transpired that September night. It also said that he found himself going down a Wikipedia and WebMD portal, and he was self-diagnosing himself with Stockholm Syndrome and Battered Woman Syndrome. When Lisa read this thing, she couldn't believe what he was saying. She had thought that he had moved past it, that he was just going to keep the secret with just her and him, but this textual diarrhea had just become an unjustified slap in the face for her. He wrote in the document that he was also going to send a copy of it to Anna for transparency reasons. Lisa immediately went to Anna and told her not to read the document. Of course, Anna had been talking to Adrian, and she asked him to send a copy to her personal email, since the email that he originally sent it to her was her work email, and she wasn't too keen on checking her work email while off the clock. She had gotten a few pages into reading what happened that night, and Lisa asked her if she would please delete it. She obliged, but she was also incredibly curious about what else it had to say. She later read it after getting into her work email. She had noticed that she hadn't really seen Adrian and Lisa. They weren't really talking, they were barely hanging out, and didn't have any real idea what had happened, let alone what happened that night that she had left the house. But from what she did read, it all sounded like it was some complete and utter horse shit. To Adrian, he had reached his breaking point, and he started meeting with the Coast Guard Investigation Service to file paperwork about the sexual assault. Although they thought there wasn't really a sexual assault, they had carried out their orders and started to look into the allegations. This was becoming closer to the end of Adrian's tour in Kodiak, and he would be soon sent off to be stationed in Chesapeake, Virginia. While he was still in Kodiak, he was recommended that he started talking to a therapist to help him with his alleged PTSD. While the investigation was ongoing, he was ordered to have no contact with Lisa or Anna, which is standard protocol. His desk was moved away from Lisa's, and she was given a new superior officer within the department. The Coast Guard had also told Anna and Lisa that they were going to be deployed to Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Now we're going to fast forward to the summer of 2013. Adrian arrives in Virginia, Anna and Lisa arrive in Cape Cod. Shortly after Adrian arrives in Chesapeake, he's informed that the investigation had concluded up in Kodiak. Let's just say that it didn't turn out the way that he wanted. On July 2nd of 2013, when reporting for duty, Adrian was given the notice that the investigation was over, which included a letter from J.L. Wolozinski, captain of the Coast Guard base of Kodiak. But it also handed him down a disciplinary form, or referred to as a page 7. The letter reads as follows. 1. I am writing this letter to update you regarding your allegations of sexual assault earlier this year and to notify you that the decision was made not to pursue criminal charges in the case. The decision was not made lightly, but with careful consideration of the facts and circumstances under which you made these allegations. The Coast Guard takes all allegations of sexual assault very seriously, and thorough investigations was completed into this matter. The general basis for the decision was that the evidence did not support the criminal charges in this case. 2. I encourage you to seek support to assist you with moving forward from this event. Your local work-life staff is available to assist you and can discuss tools and services offered to assist you with any stress or difficulties you may be experiencing. 3. If you have further questions or concerns about the case or this letter, please do not hesitate to contact me ASAP. Now, as far as the disciplinary action, it was because the investigators had said that he was harassing Anna and Lisa and had stated, quote, individual angst and decreased productivity. Let's face it, his idea of being raped by Lisa was something that he completely blew out of proportion. Then, with them investigating and asking Lisa what had been going on, they had told the investigators about the email, then handed the whole 19-page document over to them. This delusional manifestation of being the victim of one of the worst human interactions possible was complete and utter shit. With Lisa, she was written up for her alcohol consumption, which was outlined in the email, and she confessed to it, but no other actions would be taken against her. For Adrian, he was in deep shit. He wasn't fired for his antics, but he was definitely skating on thin ice. Involving the Coast Guard investigation team into an unwanted kiss, then going completely out of your way to keep harassing her, her wife, send text messages prior to the no contact order, and make a complete fucking ass of yourself? He's honestly lucky he didn't get dishonorably discharged for that. Now, I will reiterate that Adrian was told to seek help, and when he was in Kodiak, he was talking to a therapist, which, honestly, good. Therapy is good, even if it seems that Adrian's claims of PTSD and rape are pretty far-fetched. He told his commanding officers that he was going to keep pursuing mental health treatment when he was to arrive in Chesapeake. That, well, never happened. But after this, everything kind of just goes quiet. A little too quiet. Adrian goes to work, doesn't go to therapy, and just starts stewing. He takes his fanfic writing to a whole different level. For Anna and Lisa, they arrive at Cape Cod and grab themselves a home in Bourne, Massachusetts. With Adrian using the information database at his fingertips, also considering he worked IT, he used the channels at hand to find out where Anna and Lisa had gone to. He starts writing feverishly. Not only writing, but he gets himself a few GoPros and starts recording a video diary of how he was feeling. Now, when it comes to therapy, there's many ways to help cope, whether it's a diary, meditation, counseling, or medication. There's always help out there for someone who needs it. Since Adrian was no longer confiding in a therapist, he kept his options to himself, which hindered his ability to get the help that he desperately needed. As he wrote in his, practically a fucking novel, he stated that when he got his page 7 disciplinary letter, quote,
"That was the first time I ever felt hate."
End quote. In late 2013, he decides that the Coast Guard life isn't the one that he wants to live anymore. So he doesn't re-enlist to the Coast Guard, but he writes in his papers that it's either he quits or he's going to end up killing Lisa. He spends the vast majority of his time online with different websites such as Penny Arcade, Giant Bombs Forums, and Reddit. Reddit has since banned his account, and Giant Bomb Forums has a profile for him, but it's not actively listed, and all posts that he commented on or made have been removed. But Penny Arcade still has an original post by him, which is posted on June of 2009. The post reads, quote, "Girl thread, what the fuck happened?" Now, I'm only going to read a little bit of this, and it's really to make you understand this guy's mindset. So, here's a little bit of that. Quote, "Okay, so I'm looking for some third-party criticism here, since me and all my close friends have all agreed on the same thing that went on, but they could just be agreeing with me since I just got dumped. So earlier this week, this girl and I had been dating for exactly 1 month, decides to call it quits. Okay, cool. So she didn't think it would work out. The thing is, though, it's totally over and we can't be friends. We have blocked all communication from here on out. But was it really that bad?" End quote. Then here's the thing, is he proceeds to tell a 3-page, 3,065-word story about how he and this girl didn't work out. I'll spare you most of that. But even the posters on the Penny Arcade forums thought that he was kind of a fucking weirdo. Like, it's one thing to accept that maybe you weren't compatible, but to sit there and go on a poor little me diatribe about how it didn't work out to some complete strangers, the criticism was honestly warranted. The first replied said, quote, "You were dating for a month and there was no chemistry. The fact that you wrote this much about the girl that you had been, quote, dating for a month means you're probably over-aggressive and clingy too. Nobody likes someone who's too clingy," end quote. Another comment had said, quote, "You were constantly analyzing where this whole situation would go instead of enjoying the time that you two spent together, and that's where you went wrong," end quote. The last comment that I'm going to read says, "Because it's not healthy or sane to be thinking about 2 years into the future on your second date, if you asked me where any of my relationships would have been 2 years into the second date, I probably would have tried to tell you, but I would have been wrong. And you are honestly trying to tell me that the girl doesn't know what she wants and Aqua Blast does?" He latches onto this girl over the period of a couple dates as, quote, "the girl of his dreams." Because she can do junk food, pop culture, and conversations, and she's hot, she knows what she wants. It's not him. To most people, if you go on a few dates with someone and they are freaking out and talking about, quote, "the relationship," I'm telling you that they don't know what to do in 2 years, and it really makes it hard to just have a good time with somebody. So maybe they did have some chemistry, but the fastest way to kill any chemical reaction is to remove the oxygen. And that's what happened here, end quote. Now, I know. I have a bad habit of piling on the incel types, which, you know that. The internet has a heyday with them too. I'm no relationship expert, and I will never claim to be. The only time that I really had that sort of feeling was when I was 17 and I had gotten engaged, but never married. At this point in Adrian's life, as of June of 2009, he's 25 and he's had 4 years of military background and discipline. Second date, wondering what this one wants to be in the next 2 years? You'd be hard-pressed not to shut someone down for such a thing these days, let alone 12 years prior to now. If you want to read his nauseating story, I'll link it in this episode description. Now, the reason why I brought this up was because of his fixation. It was 2 years prior, and he couldn't let go. Instead of cutting his losses, working on himself, and maybe finding someone who did want to share that longevity with him, he just sat there, stewed on the idea, and wouldn't let bygones be bygones. He had become obsessive with it. And that's exactly what he did with Lisa and Anna. Now I'm going to take another small break, and I'll be back in just a minute.
Personal apps have made ordering simple, so why shouldn't employees expect the same from work apps? ServiceNow Creator Workflows make building low-code apps fast and easy, delivering delightful digital workflows across your enterprise that scale without creating app sprawl. With ServiceNow Creator Workflows, you can give the tools of innovation directly to creators, builders, and developers of any skill level, from low-code to pro-code, or anyone else. Whatever your business is facing, let's workflow it. Learn more at servicenow.com. How does an organization boost innovation for employees and cut out complication? Simple. ServiceNow Creator Workflows give businesses the agility to create consumer-like app experiences in a matter of hours instead of months. With low-code development tools and pre-built templates, ServiceNow Creator Workflows make building user-friendly apps simple, so developers, or anyone else, can deliver cross-organizational digital workflows quickly. Whether it's a departmental app or a cross-enterprise process, ServiceNow Creator Workflows put the power of automation into the hands of everyday employees, so they can focus on the bigger things. With Creator Workflows from ServiceNow, your previously manual and inefficient processes can become powerful digital workflows, connecting people, apps, and data. And they scale without sprawl. Simply put, it's innovation without complication. Whatever your business is facing, let's workflow it. Learn more at servicenow.com.
And welcome back. In October of 2014, this shitty videographer and writer had decided to take himself a trip out to Bourne, Massachusetts. With him, he brought with his GoPro, he had a dash cam installed on his vehicle, and he also brought with a trail cam. Now, trail cams are typically used by hunters who are looking for a decent area to hunt deer. They'll set it up usually in a remote rural area that hunting is allowed, and it uses an infrared technology to detect movement. When it sees movement, it starts recording, whether it's day or at night with the night vision filter. He stakes out the area for 12 entire days, posting up in a hotel near their house. He doesn't make himself visible to Anna or Lisa, but he's always monitoring their movement. After the 12 days ends, he heads back to Virginia. He manages to find the blueprints for their house on a real estate website. He continues to write his manifesto, continues to play the victim, and plots out his attack, or as he refers to as, quote, his final attack. His manifesto, much like any dumb fuck plotting to hurt innocent people, was 256 pages long. It spoke of things such as his supposed trauma, his feelings of being inferior, but also referred to himself as the one who was supposed to be trained by Luke Skywalker to become a Jedi Master. Fucking nerd. On February 1st, he heads up to Massachusetts and rents a hotel room, number 101, at the Quality Inn. He decides that the day he would carry out his attack would be on his 31st birthday. He calls his family and tells them not to contact him for his birthday. A few days pass, and he gathers his things, which includes a 12-gauge shotgun, a 9mm Glock, and an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. Yet, before he carries out his plan, a video gets posted to YouTube that isn't of Adrian himself, but the game company I mentioned named Giant Bomb. On February 4th of 2015, the guys at Giant Bomb Studios have a large unboxing video. I've been known to do these kinds of things in the past when people had sent boxes, items, or other various things for the show. So thank you to everybody who has sent stuff to me. Also, if you want to ship anything, I'll have the P.O. box at the end of the show. Now, here is some audio from their unboxing.
Whoa.
Oh.
This is the Star Wars symbol and some Auerbesh writing. That's right. Okay. Okay, I'm coming back to that.
Yeah.
Every time we do one of these,
Oh, I see some nerdy stuff in there.
we should start bringing Geraldo in to do mailbags. Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
oh boy.
Oh,
Oh boy.
All right. Yep. Yeah. See that?
There's a little gas in this. I guess.
Well-
no, wait, maybe. Oh. It's just CO2 cartridges. Great cartridges less.
5,000 BBs.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
Ahem. All guns are always loaded.
It's true.
Never let the muzzle cover anything you are not willing to destroy.
Absolutely.
Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on the target.
Uh-huh.
Be sure of your target and what is beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of the audience around you
Eh.
and how easily they can freak out. Hi, Giant Bomb! Just in case you were already freaking out yourselves, I have not sent you an actual gun.
Bummer.
What I have sent you is an airsoft rifle.
Yes. Oh, is there a rifle in there, too?
I don't think so. I think you just... Yeah. And gear to go with it.
I mean, there's a bunch of magazines in the front of that thing
That's true.
that must go to a rifle.
Maybe. Well, maybe. I got another one here. That's a long one. Much love and beef, Adrian, aka Hyper Aqua Blast on the internet, and Purple Rebel in the field of battle.
You know what you're doing here, right, Jeff?
Sure.
Okay.
Inside of the boxes were a number of things. There was a high-quality zip-up Star Trek jacket, various Star Wars Rebel Alliance hats, figurines from Transformers and Metal Gear Solid, a battery charger, but also included was some airsoft firearms. If you're not familiar with airsoft, it's essentially a larger BB gun, but instead of using steel BBs or lead pellets, it uses plastic 6mm BB balls. The airsoft guns themselves are usually spring-powered, CO2 cartridge-powered, or electric. Inside of a holster that was included in the box was a handgun-style airsoft gun, and then in another box was an AR-15-style airsoft rifle that, honestly, it looks expensive as shit. He also included a tactical vest and other little things and knickknacks. There was a Star Wars and Star Trek just bunch of shit all over, and these packages were honestly awesome for the guys, but they wouldn't know until the next day that the person who had sent these packages would be making national headlines. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, February 5th, Adrian's 31st birthday in 2015, armed with his handgun, a shotgun, and his AR-15, and strapping a fucking GoPro to his chest, Adrian leaves his hotel room and plans his attack. His motive is to kill Lisa, maybe not kill Anna, and then start a firefight with the police and die by suicide by cop. He also brings with a can of gasoline and makes a non-functioning bomb or a fake IED that he will use to slow down the police response. He gets into his car, leaves the hotel and leaves his manifesto online and heads to the Trubnikova house. At around 2 a.m., he parks his car down the street, douses it in gasoline, plants the fake bomb in the road, lights the gas, and then marches forth to their house. He takes his shotgun and shoots at the handle and deadbolt on the front door, then makes his way upstairs. Here is Anna, in her own words, as to what had happened. Again, this is not a very easy listen. You've been warned.
She, I think, said something to me, which I said, it's nothing. I'm pretty sure I was half asleep, but I said it's nothing and that it might be the cats. And then I think I heard some other noise and a lot more pronounced, I guess. And then I just heard very heavy stomping, like someone was approaching up the stairs.
After shooting the locks off of the front door, Adrian kicks in the door and runs through the house towards the staircase that he knows where Anna and Lisa's bedroom would be at the top of. The Commonwealth prosecutor asks Anna what she remembered seeing at that time.
A tall body stormed through the entrance door to the bedroom, which was kind of at the end of our bedroom, and our bed was, so it was a little long. It was dark in the room, so the person was dressed in all dark, and we saw a light. I think I remember identifying like a flashlight because it was shining in our faces, and at some point where I could see that it's a rifle of some sort.
Could you tell at that point what, if anything, they had with them in terms of weapons?
I don't know if it was right that second because I think there was a lot of shock and confusion. He was yelling, the light in your face. So I don't think it was right away, but the more he was talking or like shouting commands, then I saw that he had another maybe rifle of some sort on his left shoulder.
Not only because it was 2 o'clock in the morning and the bedroom was dark, but Adrian was not only wearing all black with a tactical vest, a shotgun, an AR-15, and a pistol, he also had on a black ski mask. So unknown to Anna and Lisa, they have this random intruder in their bedroom, and then he starts shouting commands.
At first, it was like separate, I think because Lisa right away starts saying, "Who are you?" or like, "What do you want?" type. He wouldn't say anything, so eventually I think her questions prompted him to yell out, "Shut up, separate." I was on the right side of the bed. She was on my left. Well, I wasn't as cooperative because it didn't seem right, that it was maybe a wrong house. Like none of it made sense, so we didn't respond.
Oh, that can stand.
So when you said you weren't cooperative to what?
The commands to get off the bed and separate, I think in that situation, I didn't want to separate because it was very confusing. He came up to the edge of the bed and pulled the covers off of us. And at some point after that, he got my phone that was on my right on the nightstand and threw it away somewhere. I'm not sure where. And just continued doing that. I think at that point we were very panicked and it seemed very like deliberate towards us that it was not a mistake. He seemed to be agitated and he said to get on separate ends of the bed on the floor, face down. Lisa kept objecting and I think asking, "What do you want? Like, who are you?" He had a mask on and a lot of tactical gear, so we had still no idea who it was or why. And at that point, I believe he cocked the gun and kind of approached us, so I told Lisa to just do whatever he wants, and to get down on that side, and then I also followed. So we both at that point got on opposite sides of the bed.
The prosecutor then asks Anna what she remembered after that.
He threw handcuffs at us. He reached them from like the back of his gear, and he threw one to me first and threw to Lisa the other, and he directly spoke to her and said in a very facetious way, you know what to do with them. Neither of us complied, and the last thing I wanted to be is restricted in that situation, so I refused to do it. He noticed that and was shouting and ordering more commands, saying, put them on. I put the handcuffs on my side on my right wrist, and I hid my left hand under some clothes or something, so that I could avoid not putting them on completely. He did take the mask off.
And did you recognize who it was at that point?
I did, because she yelled out his name in shock, and so it kind of just both came together for me as well, because I wasn't as familiar with him.
Who was it?
It was Adrian Loya.
Adrian Loya, the man who attended their Thanksgiving together and broke bread with them. The man who had a creepy obsession with Anna's wife, Lisa. Lisa's former boss, and the man who caused a rift between Anna and Lisa, who they haven't heard of for the past 2 years, was now standing at 2:30 in the morning in front of them in their own bedroom, and both of them in the sights of his rifle. I don't think there's a word for it, but scared and terrified don't even come close to what these two women must have been feeling.
What's the next thing that happened?
He was talking to her. Most of that time that he was in the room, he mostly spoke to her. Shortly after he took the mask off, he said, and she kind of shouted his name, and he's like, see what you've done to me. You kind of like, you're making me do this. Like, this is what I've become because of you. And she was asking, what did I do, or sorry. And he said, it's too late. Just a lot of repetitive things over and over. I mean, she would mostly say, I'm sorry, or why are you doing this? I don't know if he ever specified why, except saying that she did this to him, and something about Kodiak. And I just know that she said, like, I'm sorry, I was drunk. I didn't mean to hurt you. Somewhere in between that, I also kept saying, I'm sorry. I think I tried to appease him. He seemed angry, a little agitated, walking kind of back and forth in the room, looking to the window, back at the door.
For a while, Adrian paced the room. He kept on fixating on the windows, looking to see if anybody was approaching the area, considering he just used a shotgun to blast open the door. He then cracked a couple of glow sticks with his mouth and threw one at Lisa and one at Anna. Instinctively, Anna grabbed the mattress in which Lisa helped kick it over to her area, and Lisa then lunged over the bed to be with her wife. At this point, Adrian was becoming more and more frustrated with the non-compliance between the two women. When he saw them try to cover themselves up with the mattress, they only managed to cover up the lower half of their bodies. Adrian then went over to the both of them and yanked the mattress away from them. At this point, he could still walk away. He could face a burglary charge, breaking and entering, and an assault charge, assault with a deadly weapon. But he didn't. Of course he didn't.
When he approached the mattress and pulled it or tried to pull it back, I realized that Lisa had grabbed her phone from her side and was doing something with it to where when I looked at her, the screen of the phone was lit up and it was very bright. I knocked it out of her hand, fearing that that's only gonna make him angrier, since to that point we weren't shot yet. Maybe there was an opportunity to not do it.
What happened?
I knocked it out, and he said, "What are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" And maybe seconds afterwards, there were more shots. I knew they weren't at me. I didn't feel it yet. The sound also went to my left. And at some point, there were more shots, and then I finally felt getting shot myself, mainly through my right arm going numb and curling up. I didn't know anything else. Afterwards, at some point, the shot ceased. I figured we only have seconds after that to live. I turned to Lisa, "I love you," to which she responded, "I love you too." And I just turned my head towards her and I kissed her lips, and I remember the lips going limp as if she got really weak. Right after that, I heard a lot of gushing blood, gurgling almost, and she started choking like a wet cough and exhaled, and it was a very deep exhale, and I, for myself, knew that she was dead at that point.
It was after this that Adrian actually left the property. After firing 11 rounds into Lisa, she succumbed to her injuries and died at the scene. The phone, though, is the one part that saved Anna's life, because before Anna knocked it out of her hand, Lisa had dialed 911, and the dispatcher was still on the line, waiting to hear from anybody who called the emergency line.
911. Hello? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Unfortunately, for the 911 call, I couldn't find one that's of a suitable quality where you can really understand a lot of what's being said. But the phone call itself lasted nearly 20 minutes. You can audibly hear Anna going in and out of consciousness the entire time. The dispatcher asks if she knows who did it. Anna was confused, as she had been shot multiple times and was losing blood. But she did manage to say that it was a man named Adrian, and that she knew exactly who he was. As far as Adrian's whereabouts, in the 20-minute phone call, he managed to leave the property and went and hid behind somebody's house on their deck, waiting for the police. A 911 call comes into the dispatch office.
Is the guy still in your backyard house?
Yes. Yeah.
He's on your deck?
Yes.
Stand by. Listen, when you pull into Roundhouse, do you go to the left or the right?
Oh, you go to the left.
Okay. And your S on the back of your deck?
Yes.
Okay, hang on.
There was an absolute ton of phone calls that were coming in to the Bourne, Massachusetts Police Department, but this one was different. The other ones had stated that there was a car on fire and they kept on hearing loud pops and explosions. But with the one woman, she stated that there was a man wearing black tactical gear and carrying a firearm with him. When a single police officer arrived at her house, Officer Jared McDonald, he was shot in the back, which hit his lower back and went through one of his kidneys, just barely missing his spine. Luckily for him, it didn't take his life, but he was forced into early retirement due to the nature of the nerve damage that was done to him. Officer McDonald calls in that shots have been fired and the police show up to his location within minutes. Adrian stands his ground, ready to be shot and killed by police. His plan is working out exactly as he wanted it to. Meanwhile, Anna is still on 911, being helped by dispatchers, but unfortunately that took so much time, because the police are trying to help Officer McDonald find the man who could have shot him, and then get to the house where 911 was talking to a wounded victim. It takes them over a half hour to get to their house, and by this time, Lisa had been dead, and Anna is hanging on only by a thread. Luckily for her, the ambulance got there just in time. Anna was transported to a local hospital. But with Adrian, his plan didn't go exactly how he wanted it to. When the police arrived, he set up his GoPro with a shot of him putting down his AR-15, his pistol, and surrendering himself to the police. He didn't go out in a hail of gunfire, and around 4 o'clock in the morning, Adrian was at the Bourne Police Department being interrogated. It turned out that Anna had been shot 5 times. She was shot in the chest once, which resulted in a collapsed lung. She had been shot in the upper thigh. She had been shot in the upper left part of her arm. Then she was shot twice in the right arm, leaving her arm completely damaged because of radial nerve damage from the through and through shots. She was immediately put into surgery to try to save any limbs and her life because of what this one man had thought that her wife had done to him. Lisa was eventually laid to rest with full military honors. As far as Adrian, he was interrogated. He didn't hold anything back when it came to his interrogation. He fully admitted to everything. But when it came to his defense, he tried to plead insanity. Adrian spent many days under psychiatric evaluation trying to find out if he was actually criminally insane or criminally responsible for the murder that he just committed. Yet the one thing that kept on biting him in the ass was that he stated he was of a sound state of mind when he was being questioned by the police. He told them that he didn't want to keep anything back and he was ready to tell the full story, in which he did. He talked to the investigating officers and had told them why he just killed Lisa Trubenikova and he tried to kill Anna, her wife. When it came to his 256-page manifesto, in which I will not be narrating his manifesto, he did state some homophobic slurs against Lisa and Anna. One of which said that he couldn't believe that this duck had the opportunity to rape his mind. Again, going back into how delusional this fucking guy is. It wouldn't be until about 2.5 years later that Adrian would stand trial. The main thing that he was being accused of was first-degree murder, but there was also 29 other indictments. During his trial, the defendant called single expert Dr. John Daignault, a forensic psychologist who previously had been the clinical director of Bridgewater State Hospital. Daignault determined that the defendant had not been criminally responsible for his actions on the night of the shooting, but concluded that the defendant suffered from a delusional disorder and did not suffer from Asperger's syndrome, which was a conclusion that another forensic psychologist had come to. The trial lasted 7 days. Most of the audio that you heard from Anna was from that trial. She had recovered from her injuries and is trying to live out the rest of her life as well as she can. Officer Jared McDonald also testified against Adrian. Since he had retired as a police officer, he actually started up his own electrical business. During the trial, they played the 911 calls. They even showed the interrogation footage of Adrian confessing to his crimes. When the defense and prosecution rested with their closing arguments, Adrian looked at the jury and mouthed the words, "I am guilty," to them. That didn't help him in the 3 days that they deliberated and came back with a guilty verdict on the count of first-degree premeditated murder. They also found him guilty of 28 of the other 29 indictments that he faced. Adrian Loya was then sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. All because this one woman had kissed him, or in his mind, had raped him. I'm sorry, but it's still bullshit. No matter what Lisa could have done to this man, nothing justified him plotting for 2 years about exacting his revenge against her and her wife. They thought that he was gone. They thought that they would never see him again. And that night that they found him in their own bedroom would be the night that would shake the town of Bourne, Massachusetts, and the families of Anna and Lisa Trubinikova for the rest of their lives. There's no excuse for what he could have done. As you can imagine, Adrian appealed the September 12th, 2017 conviction. But 5 years and 1 day after he committed this murder, a superior court had upheld his convictions, finding him still guilty and not eligible for parole or a lighter sentence for what he had done to Lisa and Anna Trubinikova. This fake victim just looking for a reason for his obsession to finally claim the life of another. I'm glad that he didn't have a shootout with the police because this man needed to face justice. Although the life of Anna Trubinikova may never be the same ever again. This man will never be able to hurt another woman for the rest of his life. And for that, I'm thankful. But that's going to do it for this episode. I thank you for joining me on this one. Also, like I mentioned previously, if you would like to send a little care package or something to the show, the P.O. Box is Murder and Such. P.O. Box 1917, Dayton, Ohio, 45401. Thank you. If you have the opportunity, or you know somebody who has an iPhone, and you'd like to leave a 5-star review, please do so. That really means so much to me. And if you do think that the show is maybe worth $1 or $2, you can join the Patreon by going to patreon.com/murderandsuch, and you can get the show early, ad-free, and help feed me and my cat and all of that good stuff. But if you want to join at $5 per episode, you can join my executive producer level, like my friends Brandon McGarry with That Dead Body Show, Casey Jones, Caitlin Prophet, Jason W., Michelle Davis, Nikki with Strictly Homicide Podcast, Angel Renee, the Bama Brew Review Podcast, Aaron Albertson, Michelle Pierce, Jax, Martha Pierce, Alex Aguirre, Justin Reebsum, Nikki, McKenna Johnson, Ariel Saphir, Tracy Ford, Stacy Jenks, Dan Sheridan, Benjamin Welch, Ashley Collier, Charkley Daniels, Erica Summers, Ashley Black, Danielle Longamore, Heather Wright, Sarah Thompson, and as always, Big Daddy Thick Dick. And if you'd like to follow the show, you can find it on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Murder and Such. And if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, the PlayStation Network, and Snapchat at Huntor27. But I thank you again for joining me on this episode. I'm reminding you that you should wear your mask, wash your hands, call somebody that you love today, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.
How does an organization boost innovation for employees and cut out complication? Simple. ServiceNow Creator Workflows give businesses the agility to create consumer-like app experiences in a matter of hours instead of months. With low-code development tools and pre-built templates, ServiceNow Creator Workflows make building user-friendly apps simple. So developers, or anyone else, can deliver cross-organizational digital workflows quickly. Whether it's a departmental app or a cross-enterprise process, ServiceNow Creator Workflows put the power of automation into the hands of everyday employees so they can focus on the bigger things. With Creator Workflows from ServiceNow, your previously manual and inefficient processes can become powerful digital workflows, connecting people, apps, and data. And they scale without sprawl. Simply put, it's innovation without complication. Whatever your business is facing, let's workflow it. Learn more at servicenow.com.
Do you know how many files your employees have uploaded, downloaded, emailed, airdropped, Slacked, or shared via Google Drive today? A lot of that data has left your organization, and you don't even know it. Visit code42.com to learn how Insider prevents data exfiltration.